somewhere, it is already the new year before the ball drops. In the next 9,000 seconds, you'll hear facts in short chapters on rituals, time zones, lucky foods, and why counting down from 10 works. If you're listening in bed, tap like. Then comment your time zone or just say midnight so I can picture your quiet countdown. Before we go anywhere, try a gentle little poll in your mind. When you imagine a new year, do you feel a season change? Do you picture a clean calendar page? Or do you picture a midnight moment with quiet watching and waiting? All three pictures make sense because the new year has worn many shapes. For most of human history, a year boundary was not just a date. It was a practical idea tied to survival, planting, travel, and community order. People needed a shared signal that said, we are entering a new cycle. Not because time itself changes, but because people do. When a community agrees on a boundary, it can also agree on a reset. Old promises can be renewed, old disputes can be softened, and new plans can be spoken out loud together. Many early New Year markers followed the natural world, not a fixed page date. The return of longer daylight mattered because light meant work and warmth. The first safe thaw mattered because it meant movement and planting. The end of harvest mattered because it meant counting what was stored. In other words, the new year often arrived when the world felt different. That seasonal feeling is one reason New Year traditions lean on symbols. Symbols are simple tools for big emotions. They turn a messy change into a clean story. Across cultures, clearing rituals show up again and again. Fire is a common one because it looks like light returning. Water is another because it feels like washing and renewal. Smoke, scent, and sweeping appear because they feel like removing the old. Even a simple tidy room can act like a small ritual. Not magical in a literal sense, just soothing to the mind. Noise also appears in many places, but not because spirits are always the point. Sometimes noise simply marks a public boundary, like a bell you can share. It tells everyone, together, the threshold is here. And when the threshold is shared, the reset feels more real. In some ancient settings, the new year was also administrative. It could be the time for audits, taxes, and storehouse records. It could be the time for public roles to rotate. It could be the time for courts to hear certain cases. A year boundary is useful when you want fairness over time. You can say, from this point, we start counting again. That idea is older than any single calendar. Different communities also tied New Year moments to religious stories. Creation stories, renewal stories, rescue stories, return stories. When the year turns, people often place their lives inside a bigger pattern. That bigger pattern can be comforting, especially in winter darkness. If you look widely, you see that New Year is not one holiday. It is a family of holidays with shared moods. The shared moods are cleaning, gathering, watching, and eating. And the shared goal is a gentle social reset. One famous ancient example comes from Mesopotamia. Some city-states marked a New Year festival in early spring. Spring makes sense because it feels like the world is starting again. Those festivals could last many days with processions and public ceremonies. They were not quiet, but they were deeply structured. Structure is what makes a transition feel safe. Other cultures used lunar calendars, so the new year moved through seasons. That movement was normal, not confusing, because people tracked the moon closely. If you have ever watched a bright moon rise slowly, you know why it becomes a clock. A lunar new year also means the boundary is visible in the sky. Still, even moon-based calendars needed adjustment over long time spans, because moons do not fit perfectly into the solar year. So communities used rules, observations, and sometimes extra days or months. This is one reason calendars are human tools, not perfect mirrors of nature. They are agreements we keep updating. In many places, priests, scholars, or officials guarded those agreements. Whoever controls the calendar controls the schedule of public life. They can declare when to work, when to rest, and when to celebrate. So when calendars changed, it was rarely a small change. It could touch wages, taxes, and religious duties. It could even touch identity, because festivals hold memories. That is why you sometimes see resistance to calendar reforms. People were not resisting time. They were protecting the rhythm of their lives. Now, let's bring this closer to the word eve. An eve is a threshold, a waiting room for the next day. Many traditions treat the night before as a special kind of time. Night is when the world is quieter and symbols feel louder. Night is also when communities can gather after work. So, over centuries, an eve becomes a natural stage for transition rituals. Even when the official new year is in daylight, the eve can gather meaning. If you feel yourself drifting right now, that is completely fine. This chapter is built like a slow walk, and each step stands on its own. Just keep the soft idea in mind that humans like clear boundaries. Now we move toward one of the most influential calendar stories in the West, the Roman story. And even within Rome, the new year did not always mean January. Early Roman tradition often treated March as a starting point. It fits the seasonal logic because March follows winter's deepest weeks. It also fits the military and farming rhythms of that world. Over time, Roman civic life grew more complex, and the civic calendar started to matter as much as the seasons. Months were not only weather markers. They became containers for law, taxes, and public office. This is where politics quietly enters the new year. Because if a new year begins, someone gets to say it begins. In the Roman system, certain officials took office on a set day. That office day could act like a year boundary. For a long time, the start of consul terms was a major civic marker. Eventually, that start moved to the first day of January. Historians often connect this to practical governance and military planning. The key point is simple, though. When leadership terms start on a day, that day starts to feel like the start. So January gained power not only as a month, but as a threshold. January also carried a strong symbol. The god Janus, linked with doors, gates, and transitions. You can think of Janus as the feeling of standing in a doorway. 1 foot in the old room, 1 foot in the new one. That doorway image is sticky because it matches what New Year feels like. It is not about perfection. It is about crossing over. This is our calm, open loop for later. Modern midnight rituals still treat the moment like a doorway, even if we do it with a countdown and a screen. Now, Rome also had a practical problem with timekeeping. Their calendar drifted. Seasons and festivals can slide apart if the math is off. When drift grows, farmers notice, priests notice, and taxpayers notice too. To fix drift, Roman authorities sometimes added extra days. But when the power to add days is political, trust can get messy. So reforms became part science, part statecraft. One major reform came under Julius Caesar. With advice from scholars familiar with solar calendars, Rome moved toward a more regular system. This system is often called the Julian calendar. It aimed to keep the civic year aligned with the sun and seasons. It did not solve every issue forever, but it stabilized the rhythm for centuries, and it helped make January a more universal start in Roman territories. It is worth pausing on one quiet thought. A calendar feels like nature, but it is mostly agreement. If you and your neighbors agree that tomorrow begins the year, it becomes true socially. That social truth is powerful. It decides when contracts turn over. It decides when rent is due. It decides what counts as last year. So January 1st did not win because it is naturally correct. It won because it was adopted, reinforced, and repeated. It became convenient, then familiar, then official. And once something is official, people build traditions around it. Traditions grow roots quickly when they return every year. Now we slide from dates into nights, because New Year's Eve is not just a calendar boundary. It is a cultural stage. In earlier eras, the night before a holy day often had a special tone. Many religions developed vigils, which are periods of waiting and reflection. A vigil is like holding a candle in time. You stay awake not to force anything, but to witness a transition. In Christian traditions, there are long-standing services held on the eve of important days. Some communities later adapted this idea to the turning of the year. They treated the night as a watchful, thoughtful threshold. Not a party first, but a pause. In parts of the English-speaking world, watch night services became a recognizable practice. Some were tied to renewal of personal commitments and community care. In the 18th century, John Wesley popularized a covenant renewal service held near the new year. For many people, this shaped the idea that the year should start with reflection. Even today, some still choose quiet gatherings, candles, and prayer at year's end. It is a reminder that celebration has many volumes. As cities grew, the meaning of the night also changed. Urban life created shared public spaces that felt symbolic. A town square, a main street, a central clock. When you have a shared clock, you can share a moment. And when you share a moment, you can share a story about who you are. Over time, public gatherings became more common around major transitions. Sometimes for safety, sometimes for community, sometimes for simple companionship. The eve also benefited from one practical detail. Most people are free at night. Work slows, chores soften, lights come on, and attention shifts. A New Year boundary in the middle of the night is inconvenient in one way. But it is convenient in another, because it invites a shared pause. That pause can be filled with many things: food, music, conversation, or quiet listening, like you are doing now. As the centuries moved forward, new technologies changed how people shared time. Printed calendars standardized dates across regions. Newspapers told readers what day it was and what it meant. Railroads later made exact scheduling more important across long distances, and public clocks became symbols of a modern city. When clocks become public, midnight becomes public too. The new year becomes something you can witness together, even with strangers. It is also around this period that Eve becomes more festive in many places. Older solemn customs blended with newer social customs. The blend can look different by region. Some places hold more religious tone. Some lean more toward communal dining. Some lean toward public street celebration. But the underlying engine is similar. A threshold plus a crowd equals a strong feeling. Mass media later amplified that feeling. Radio could synchronize voices across a nation. Television could synchronize faces and music. And broadcasts created a shared script, even for people at home. We will explore that shared script in a later chapter. For now, keep it simple. A New Year boundary began as a practical need. It grew into a social reset. And it eventually became a night with many possible moods. If you grew up thinking New Year's Eve is naturally a party night, that is understandable. But it is not the only version. There is also the quiet version, the reflective version, the candlelit version, the family table version, the early bedtime version. And each one is still doing the same human work, marking a boundary, letting go of what is done, and stepping through a doorway into what comes next. Hold on to that doorway image for later, because it helps explain why certain tiny rituals feel so satisfying. A toast, a hug, a cleaned sink, a first step outside, even a whispered thought. All of those can be small threshold actions. Now we are ready for the next piece, to understand why January 1st feels so official in so many places. We need to look at calendars themselves. Take a slow breath and picture a calendar as a comforting box for messy, real time. As you listen, decide whether you feel like a season person or a date person. Season people trust sunlight, temperature, and harvest rhythms to tell them what a year is. Date people trust the page, the schedule, and the shared agreement that today is the day. Calendars are where those two instincts try to meet in the middle. In the sky, the Earth takes about one trip around the sun for a year to pass. But that trip is not an exact whole number of days on our clocks. It is a little more than 365 days, and that small extra part matters. If we ignored the extra part, the seasons would slowly slide through the calendar. Winter would arrive later on the page, even though the air feels the same. So every calendar system needs a way to patch time back into alignment. Some patches add a whole extra day now and then, like a small stitch in fabric. Other patches add a whole extra month in certain years, which is a bigger adjustment. That larger adjustment is called intercalation, meaning you insert time to keep seasons steady. Lunar months are especially tricky because moon cycles do not fit neatly into solar seasons. A lunar month is about 29.5 days, so 12 lunar months are short of a solar year. That is why many lunar-based calendars sometimes add an extra month to stay seasonal. When you hear about a leap month, that is intercalation at work, quietly keeping things tidy. Solar-based calendars have their own puzzle because a solar year is not exactly 365 days either. The most common patch is a leap day added on a set rule. Even that rule can be tuned because the real year length is not perfectly matched by a simple pattern. This is why calendars are not just astronomy, they are decisions. Now let's talk about midnight, because it sounds simple, but it is also a choice. Long ago, many communities used local solar time, meaning noon was when the sun was highest overhead. By that logic, midnight is simply the point halfway between two local noons. But local solar time changes from town to town because longitude changes when the sun peaks. Two places a short train ride apart can have slightly different solar midnights. For most of history, that was fine because people lived locally. Then trade grew, travel grew, and coordination started to matter more than local sky cues. Suddenly, it was helpful for distant places to agree on a shared time system. That is the seed of standardized clock time, which we will explore in the next chapter. For now, keep the gentle idea that even midnight depends on definition. Back to the year box. People have used many starting points for the year. Some began near spring, when planting begins and light returns. Some began near autumn, when harvest ends and stores are counted. Some began in midwinter, when a hard season turns and hope returns. So New Year traditions can be older than January 1st, even if the date changed later. January 1st became dominant in many places because powerful institutions kept using it. Administrations like fixed dates because records, taxes, and terms can reset cleanly. Religions sometimes prefer dates that align with their own liturgical rhythm. Merchants prefer dates that match contracts and accounts, and ordinary people prefer whatever the community repeats because repetition feels stable. This is the pattern to notice, and you do not need to memorize a list of rulers or reforms. Calendars change when coordination matters more than tradition or when tradition and coordination align. One famous coordination problem is drift, a calendar slowly sliding away from the seasons. When drift becomes obvious, festivals can land in the wrong weather. Farm tasks can be mistimed if the official schedule no longer matches daylight. So reforms arrive, often with debate, because the fix affects everyone's habits. Sometimes reforms also create stories that sound like time itself broke for a moment. Even within one country, different institutions can keep different year starts, like a fiscal year versus a school year. That is another reminder that a year boundary is chosen for coordination, not discovered like a hidden treasure. The Julian calendar used a simple leap pattern, but over many centuries it still drifted slightly from the seasons. That slow drift is why later reformers adjusted the leap rules, aiming for a closer match to the solar year. Some people worry that a skip date steals time, but nothing is stolen from the sky, only from the label. You may have heard tales of missing days, when a new calendar skipped ahead to catch up. In parts of Europe, a major reform in the 1600s shifted the calendar to better match the solar year. Some places adopted it quickly, while others waited for decades, even centuries. In the British Empire, the change came later, and people went to bed on one date and woke on a later one. That experience felt strange, even though the sun and seasons kept moving normally. It is a good example of how calendars live in the mind as much as in the sky. Another shift you might not expect is the official start of the year within the same calendar. In medieval and early modern Europe, some regions counted the new year from late March, not January. Legal documents could treat the same winter week as belonging to different years, depending on the system used. So if you read old records, you sometimes see double-dated years to prevent confusion. All of this points to a quiet truth. The year is a shared story we agree to tell. Now, why did January 1st feel like the best story for so many modern countries? Part of it is Roman influence, and part of it is later standardization through governments and churches. Printing also matters, because printed calendars spread one consistent habit across wide areas. So does schooling, because children learn the year as a simple, repeatable rule. So does business, because payroll and accounting love a stable boundary. Once a date becomes widely used, it creates a feedback loop. The more people mark it, the more real it feels, and the more others join in. This is why a fixed date can feel comforting, even if it is an approximation. A fixed date says, you are not alone in the reset. Your personal fresh start gets synchronized with millions of other fresh starts. Try a tiny reflection here, very gently, with no pressure to answer. Have you ever felt a reset just from seeing a new calendar page? Even if nothing else changed, the page still made your mind breathe differently. That feeling is not silly. It is a known feature of human attention. We will return to it later when we talk about the fresh start effect and resolutions. For now, notice how a shared date turns private intention into a social moment. A shared date turns a private feeling, a new start, into a coordinated social event. Even people who do not celebrate can feel the boundary in the background. School terms, work schedules, and media all signal that something is turning over. And because so many systems align, the turning feels official. January 1st also fits a psychological rhythm in many northern regions. It arrives after the holiday season when people have already been gathering and reflecting. It sits near the quiet center of winter, which can make indoor planning feel natural. But remember, this is not universal, and it does not need to be. Many cultures keep traditional New Year dates that follow lunar cycles, solar terms, or regional seasons. Modern life can hold more than one new year at once, like multiple gentle doorways. And that brings us back to your season versus date choice. If you are a season person, you might feel the new year when the light changes. If you are a date person, you might feel it when the page changes. Most of us are a bit of both, depending on the year we had. This is also why some regions celebrate 2 New Years, one official for work and one traditional for the heart. Hold that thought, because later chapters will visit those traditions like quiet postcards from around the world. Now let's connect this to a calm, open loop from earlier. If calendars are agreements, then today can differ when agreements differ across the globe. Later, when we talk about time zones, you will see countries disagree on what day it is at the same moment. That is not because reality is confused. It is because coordination is local, then negotiated. One last gentle reassurance before we move on. You do not need to remember every calendar name or reform date to understand the big idea. The big idea is that calendars are tools for aligning nature, society, and meaning. And when the tool changes, the rituals often travel with it, adapting to the new boundary. So when January 1st won, it did not erase older instincts. It simply became the most widely shared box for the year in many places. Now that we have built the calendar box, we can build the clock that fills it. In the next chapter, we will measure midnight in plain, sleepy language. Before we map time zones, we need one gentle tool: a shared idea of midnight. Here is a quiet question to hold in your mind tonight. When you picture midnight, is it a sky moment or a phone moment? Both pictures are real in their own way, and the story of clocks explains why. Long before wristwatches, time was read in shadows, like a slow-moving compass. A simple upright stick can cast a shadow that sweeps across the ground. That shadow makes a sundial, and it turns sunlight into a calm daily rhythm. But sundials rest on clear skies, and they fall quiet at night and in storms. A sundial also teaches a subtle lesson. The sun does not move at exactly the same speed across the year. Because Earth's orbit is slightly stretched and Earth is tilted, solar days vary a little in length, so a sundial can be a few minutes ahead or behind a well-made clock, depending on the season. To smooth that out, astronomers created the idea of mean solar time, an average sun for an average day. Mean solar time is like taking many sunrises and making a calm, reliable schedule from their average. In old towns, a public clock tower helped everyone share that average without arguing about shadows. Bells marked hours for markets, work shifts, and gatherings, turning time into something you could hear. So people built other ways to keep time when the sun was hidden. Water clocks used a steady drip to measure passing hours in darkness. Sand timers did something similar, letting grains flow like a small, silent river. These tools were not about perfect accuracy. They were about shared order: when to meet, when to pray, and when to rest. Even then, there was a hidden complication. Local solar noon depends on where you stand on Earth. Noon is when the sun is highest for you, not for everyone else. If you travel east or west, your local noon shifts a little each mile. In a world of walking speed, that difference rarely mattered. In a world of fast trains, it mattered a great deal. Rail schedules needed agreement, or travelers would miss connections and collide with confusion. So clocks began to need rules, not just gears. In many countries, rail companies pushed for standard time zones to reduce mistakes. Standard time is a quiet compromise, one official time for a wide region. This is why standard time was also about safety, not only convenience. Clear schedules reduce mistakes, and mistakes can matter on busy rail lines and air routes. It is not perfectly matched to the sun everywhere, but it is easier to share. This is why timekeeping became infrastructure, like roads you do not notice. Once you trust a shared clock, you can coordinate trade, safety, and daily life. Now, let's drift from shadows to machines. Mechanical clocks used gears and escapements to turn motion into steady ticks. Early mechanical clocks could drift because friction and temperature changed their behavior. Then pendulum clocks improved stability by using a swinging weight with a regular rhythm. A pendulum is like a patient metronome, back and forth, back and forth. Even so, the pendulum's rhythm can shift with temperature and gravity differences. Later, quartz crystals offered a new kind of steadiness. A quartz crystal vibrates at a very stable rate when electricity passes through it. In a sense, the crystal becomes a tiny tuning fork inside the clock. Quartz clocks made accurate time affordable, portable, and common. Clockmakers chase steadiness by improving balance wheels and springs, especially in portable watches. At sea, accurate time became crucial for navigation, because longitude depends on knowing time difference. To solve that, sailors relied on marine chronometers, protected from temperature changes and motion. This is another quiet example of time as coordination. You measure where you are by agreeing with a distant clock. But modern coordination needed something even steadier than quartz. That brings us to atomic time, which sounds intense but can be pictured gently. Think of the sky as giving us a rhythm, like waves on a shore. Think of the atom as giving us a ruler, like marked lines on a calm measuring stick. Certain atoms change energy states in a remarkably regular pattern. Atomic clocks count that regular pattern to define a very stable second. They do not watch the sun directly. They measure a consistent beat, then build minutes and hours from it. This is one reason your phone feels so certain about the time. It is not guessing from daylight outside your window. It is borrowing certainty from a global web of careful measurement. Most phones and computers synchronize time regularly in the background. Later, national observatories and standards offices took on the role of maintaining official time for a country. They compared many clocks, averaged them, and distributed the best estimate as a public service. In modern systems, time is often built from an ensemble, meaning many atomic clocks working together. An ensemble is calmer than a single clock, because averaging reduces the chance of one odd drift. Signals then carry that ensemble time outward through radio, satellites, and network connections. Either way, your everyday time is linked to a quiet chain of measurement you rarely see. They check in with time servers and quietly correct small drifts. So midnight arrives by engineered consistency, not by someone stepping outside to look. That engineering is usually invisible, and that invisibility is part of its comfort. You can set an alarm and trust it because many systems cooperate to keep time aligned. To coordinate globally, we also need one reference time that is not tied to a single place. That reference is Coordinated Universal Time, often called UTC. UTC is like the center line on a map of time. Time zones translate UTC into local civil time, the time you live by. Your local midnight is your time zone's way of saying, we have reached the next day. This is a good moment to notice the theme of this whole video. Midnight is not found like a rare stone in the ground. Midnight is kept maintained and agreed upon. If that sounds strange, you can relax into a simpler feeling. Midnight works because people made it work, carefully and collectively. Now we reach a small, famous oddity, the leap second. A leap second is an occasional 1-second adjustment added to civil timekeeping. It exists because Earth's rotation is not perfectly uniform. The planet speeds up and slows down slightly due to many natural factors. So, solar time, based on Earth's rotation, can drift from atomic time over years. Leap seconds are a way to keep the two within chosen tolerances. They are like a tiny stitch to keep two fabrics from pulling apart too far. Most people never notice, because systems absorb the change quietly. Even with all this engineering, we still keep one eye on Earth, because Earth is our home reference. We want civil time to stay reasonably close to the turning sky people live under. Leap seconds are one way to do that, but they also add complexity to some systems. So experts continue to discuss how best to balance simplicity and alignment with Earth's rotation. You do not need to follow that debate to enjoy the main point. The main point is that time is maintained, like a garden that is gently tended. And that tending is what makes a global midnight feel smooth instead of chaotic. After this chapter, midnight can feel like both, a sky rhythm translated into a shared digital promise. With that promise in place, we are ready to step into time zones, the geography of shared time. Some networks slow a tiny bit, some repeat a second, and most devices handle it smoothly. If this feels too technical, keep one soft summary and let the details fade. We treat time as a neat line, but real time is a living process we manage. Even the definition of a second was refined over history as measurement improved. Older seconds were tied to Earth's rotation, but modern seconds are defined by atomic behavior. That definition makes science and navigation possible with remarkable precision. It also makes everyday life calmer, because clocks agree more often than they disagree. Time signals helped spread that agreement long before the internet. Radio broadcasts carried official time ticks that people could trust at home. Telegraph lines did something similar for railroads and cities. Today, networks play that role, syncing clocks across phones, satellites, and servers. Here is our soft, open loop for later chapters. When you watch a televised countdown, it feels authoritative for a reason. Behind the scenes, the broadcast is anchored to standardized time systems. So the shared countdown is not only cultural, it is also technical coordination made friendly and festive. You might wonder why we still care about midnight if the sun is not exactly overhead. We care because shared moments are powerful, even when they are approximate. A region agrees to call a certain instant midnight, and that agreement becomes a social doorway. That doorway is what parties, vigils, and quiet reflections step through together. And once you see that, time zones start to make more sense. Time zones are not only geography, they are agreements layered over geography, designed for coordination and daily comfort. With that clockwork in place, we can finally map the strange New Year landscape. Next, we travel across the globe to see who reaches the New Year first and who arrives last. Now that we have a steady clock, we can give midnight a geography. This is the chapter where midnight becomes a slow-moving wave across Earth. As you listen, try to picture where you are on that midnight wave. Do you feel closer to the early edge or the late edge? Time zones look like neat stripes on a map, but real ones have personality. They bend around borders, islands, and the practical needs of daily life. Time zones are geographic, but they are also political and economic. A country can choose its time zone, even if the sun would disagree. An island can choose to match its trading partners, not its longitude. So time zones tell a story about connection, not only about location. To keep calendars from drifting as we travel around the globe, we need one special seam. That seam is the international date line. It is an invisible boundary where the calendar flips by one whole day. Without it, a traveler circling Earth could end up one day off. Not because time is broken, but because Earth is round and movement adds up. The date line is a calm trick that makes tomorrow real, everywhere. It mostly follows the 180th meridian in the wide Pacific Ocean, but it does not stay perfectly straight. It steps around islands so communities can share the same weekday as neighbors. It bends to keep countries from being split into different calendar days. So the date line is a practical compromise, drawn for human convenience. Here is the simple rule that makes it work. Cross the date line going west, and you move the date forward by one day. Cross the date line going east, and you move the date back by one day. It sounds like magic, but it is really bookkeeping for a moving traveler. It keeps the world's calendars consistent, even when clocks differ by hours. This is also why today is not perfectly synchronized worldwide. At the same moment, one place can call it early morning tomorrow. Another place can call it late night today. And both are correct within their local agreements. If you like a calm image, imagine a ribbon wrapped around a globe. That ribbon is the date line, keeping the calendar stitched together. Now we can ask the cozy New Year question. Who reaches the New Year first, and who arrives last? If this sounds like it could get tangled, we will keep it simple. You do not need to memorize names to understand the shape of it. Just imagine midnight traveling like a quiet wave. It touches one coastline, then another, and keeps going. The easiest way to compare places is to use Coordinated Universal Time. On first mention, that is Coordinated Universal Time, also called UTC. UTC is the reference clock used for global coordination. Each time zone is an offset from UTC, like +3 or -5. A local midnight happens when a local clock reaches 12 in that zone. So the earliest New Year is found in the largest positive offsets, and the latest New Year is found in the most negative offsets. The largest commonly used positive offset is UTC +14. Places in UTC +14 are among the first to see a new calendar day. A well-known example is Kiritimati in the Line Islands of Kiribati. That region shifted its time zone so the nation could share the same date across islands. So when people say first midnight, they often mean those far eastern Pacific islands. If you prefer a calmer phrasing, you can think of them as the first edge of the wave. Not better, not more real, just earlier by agreement. Next, the wave reaches nearby Pacific regions with slightly smaller offsets. It reaches other islands and then larger populations depending on the season. New Zealand is often among the first major countries to welcome the year. Its main cities can be early on the wave, especially when daylight saving time is active. After that, midnight rolls across Australia, then across East Asia, then across South Asia. It continues over the Middle East, Europe, Africa, and then the Americas. The planet celebrates for many hours, even if television makes it feel like one moment. Broadcasts often pick one main event and treat it like the center, but the wave keeps moving, whether cameras follow it or not. If you have ever seen social media posts arriving in a long stream, that is the wave. First photos, then toasts, then meals, then quiet goodnights. Now let's talk about the other edge of the wave, the last midnight. The most negative offset commonly referenced is UTC-12. UTC-12 is often described as the last time zone to enter a new year. A real-world example is Baker Island and Howland Island, which are uninhabited. So on paper, those islands can be last, even though no one lives there permanently. If we talk about populated places, the last can be different. Populated regions near UTC-11 are usually among the last inhabited areas. American Samoa is a common example people mention for the last inhabited celebration. Niue is another small place that can be very late on the wave. So you can say last in two ways. Last land at all, including uninhabited islands, or last inhabited communities where people actually toast and eat and gather. This is the open loop we will carry forward. Two places can both claim first or last, depending on what definition you use. First inhabited village versus first major city. Last technical time zone versus last place with a large crowd. Definitions matter, and the wave image keeps it gentle. Time zones also have small surprises that make the wave feel less uniform. Not every time zone is exactly 1 hour wide. Some offsets include half hours. Some even include quarter hours. That means midnight can arrive in slightly finer steps than you might expect, so the wave can have little ripples along its edge. These odd offsets exist because local history and practical compromise exist. People choose what feels comfortable for work, school, and daylight. Another surprise is that borders can create sudden jumps. You can drive a short distance and cross into a different time zone. Suddenly, the clock agrees with a different city. This can feel strange, but it is also a reminder. Time zones are made to serve communities, not to obey a perfect grid. The International Dateline shows this most clearly. It zigzags to keep island groups aligned with their neighbors. It avoids slicing a country into two different weekdays. It is not fixed by a single global law. It is more like a convention that nations respect for shared sanity. This is why the map looks like it has a few careful steps. Those steps are human choices written into geography. There is a famous example of a country deciding to change sides of the dateline. Samoa shifted its calendar alignment to better match its regional trading partners. In doing so, it skipped ahead by a day on the calendar. This kind of change is rare, but it proves a point. Today is a managed label used for coordination. It can be updated when coordination needs change. If you are listening in bed, let that thought stay soft. Time is not threatening here. Time is a tool humans keep tidy so life feels predictable. Now, a sleepy tip for keeping first and last clear in your mind. Imagine Earth as a dark globe and imagine a thin highlight moving across it. That highlight is midnight sliding along time zones. The dateline is where the highlight begins for the new day, and the opposite side is where the highlight finishes for that day. So the new year begins near the dateline on one side, and it ends near the dateline on the other side. It is the same seam used in opposite directions. This is why the dateline feels like a quiet stage curtain. It opens the new day for one side of the world, and it closes the old day for the other side. If you want a small moment of engagement, silently guess your place. Are you closer to the early curtain or the late curtain? Do you meet the new year early, or do you watch others go first? There is no right answer, only a place on the wave. And your place can change if you travel, or if your country changes its rules. Another gentle complication is daylight saving time. Some regions shift clocks forward or back by an hour in certain seasons. That means their offset from UTC can change part of the year. So, who is first among major cities can vary with the season. That is why careful sources avoid saying always for most places, but the extremes are usually stable because they are built into offset choices. Even then, it is wise to speak softly because time zone rules can be updated. Now let's visit Antarctica because it is a special case. Antarctica does not have one official time zone used by everyone. Research stations often adopt the time of the country that supplies them. Some follow the time of nearby logistics routes. So, you can have different clocks at the bottom of the world at the same moment. That means midnight in Antarctica can depend on which station you mean. It is a quiet reminder that time zones are chosen for daily function. When you are in a place with extreme daylight cycles, function matters most. And that makes Antarctica feel like a living experiment in human timekeeping. Now, let's widen back out to the global celebration itself. As the wave moves, the same New Year moment repeats with local flavor. One place lights lanterns, another serves noodles, another shares grapes or lentils. Some places step outside, some stay indoors, some watch a clock tower. Some turn on a broadcast, some listen to a radio, some keep it quiet. The wave carries many traditions, not one. If you imagine the wave moving over oceans, it can feel especially peaceful. Most of the planet is water, so much of the wave passes in silence. Then it reaches land, and a new pocket of sound and light appears. Then it moves on, and another pocket appears somewhere else. This is why the new year can feel like a long global hush, punctuated by gatherings. It is also why people say the world celebrates for about a full day. Because at any hour, someone is near midnight somewhere. This is comforting for some listeners. It means you never face the threshold entirely alone. Even if your room is quiet, the wave is moving with you. Later, we will visit famous countdown sites and compare their styles. Some represent national identity. Some represent city pride. Some represent pure spectacle. For now, just notice that every site is a local crest of the same wave. This wave idea also explains a small social feeling. When you watch another country celebrate first, it can feel like a preview. It can make your own midnight feel closer, even if hours remain. And when your midnight passes, it can feel like joining a long relay. You receive the new year, then pass it onward in time to the west. If you have ever heard Happy New Year messages arriving early, that is the relay. Time zones turn greetings into a gentle sequence. Now, one more quiet thought about first. The first place is not necessarily the first sunrise of the year. Sunrise depends on latitude, season, and landscape. First midnight is a civil time label, not a sky event. So, first New Year is about clocks and zones, not about light touching land. This matters because it keeps our story honest and simple. Our video is about the human rituals around official time boundaries, and official boundaries are the ones we coordinate around together. So when you hear first and last, hear it as a map story. A story of how we organize a shared planet. If you want a final mental picture, picture a dim globe with a moving ring of night. Along that ring, tiny warm lights blink on as each region celebrates. The lights do not compete, they simply take their turn. And each turn is part of the same calm cycle. Now that midnight moves like a wave, we can ask a more personal question. Why do we feel an urge to count down together? Why does counting down from 10 feel so natural? That is our next chapter, and it will be simpler than it sounds. Now we arrive at a tradition that feels so normal, we rarely question it. The countdown. Not the fireworks, not the ball, not the song. Just a small line of numbers walking us to a boundary. Here is a gentle question to carry through this chapter. Do you prefer counting in a crowd or quietly in your own head? Either way, the effect is surprisingly similar. A countdown changes how time feels, even when the clock keeps perfect time. It turns a vague waiting period into a clear path, and the brain tends to relax when the path is clear. In daily life, many moments arrive with uncertainty. You do not always know exactly when something will start. A countdown removes that uncertainty for a moment. It says we are not guessing. We are approaching together, step by step. That predictability can make the final seconds feel vivid. It narrows attention into a simple sequence that is easy to follow. Instead of thinking about the whole party, you think about the next number. Instead of thinking about the whole year, you think about the next breath. This is one reason countdowns feel almost physical. They give your mind a rhythm to hold. There is a quiet psychological term for this kind of focusing. You can call it temporal attention, meaning attention aimed at a moment in time. When attention narrows, a moment can feel larger than it is. A single second can feel like a small stage. That is why the last few seconds of a countdown feel like more than seconds. It is not that time slows down. It is that your mind stops spreading out. Your mind gathers itself. A countdown also creates anticipation in a clean, safe way. Anticipation is not only excitement. It is the body preparing for a change. When you know the change is coming, your brain starts to predict it. Prediction can be soothing when the outcome is friendly. So a countdown is like a friendly rehearsal for a new moment. You get to practice the transition before it arrives. There is also a memory effect. Events that feel marked and bounded are easier to remember. A countdown puts a thick underline under a moment. Later you can say, that was the instant we crossed over. Even if you stayed home, even if nothing dramatic happened, you still had a marker. That marker helps the brain sort time into chapters. Humans love chapters. They make life feel readable. Now, why does counting down work so well in groups? Because the countdown is not just private attention, it is social synchrony. Social synchrony is when many people align their timing on purpose. One voice, one number, one moment. When a crowd counts together, strangers temporarily share a single rhythm. Even if you do not know anyone near you, your bodies are doing the same thing. Mouths move in the same pattern. Breaths tend to fall into similar timing. Eyes lift and wait together. This kind of alignment can feel meaningful without needing words. It creates a brief sense of togetherness. Not deep intimacy, just a shared beat. You can hear it in the sound of the group voice. It is not one person speaking. It is many voices forming one shape. That shared shape can feel oddly comforting. It says, we are here at the same time, and we know what happens next. This is one reason televised countdowns still work. Synchrony can be remote. If you and a million other viewers are watching the same clock, you share the same anticipation. You might be alone on a couch, but you are not alone in the ritual. You can feel that in your body, even if you never think the thought. This also explains why New Year's broadcasts often feel authoritative. They sound certain. They show a clock. They give a script. And our brains like scripts for boundary moments. Scripts reduce the effort of deciding what to do. You do not have to invent the moment. You just follow the pattern. Now, a small engagement moment, very quiet. If you picture yourself counting down, what do you picture? Do you hear the crowd voice? Or do you hear your own inner voice? Some people do the count with a whisper. Some do it only in their head. Some skip the count and wait for a chime like a bell. All of these are ways of aligning with the boundary. Even without speaking, you can still synchronize. You can watch the same clock face. You can listen to the same song cue. You can feel the room shift when others react. Now we circle back to the open question. Why 10? Why do so many places count down from 10 and not from 7 or 12 or 20? We will answer this gently, without turning it into a myth. The simplest reason is that 10 feels complete to many people. Many counting systems are based on groups of 10. You learn 10 as a full set early in life. So 10 feels like a small whole. It is short enough to remember and share, but long enough to build a little suspense and rhythm. This matters because working memory is limited. Working memory is the small mental notepad you use for what is happening right now. A 10-step sequence fits comfortably on that notepad. You can keep track of where you are in the count. A much longer count is harder for a group to keep together. People would drift, start early, start late, or forget their place. A shorter count can feel too quick to gather everyone. 10 is a sweet spot. It gives enough time for a crowd to lock in together, and it gives enough time for the body to anticipate the final moment. There is also a practical media reason. A 10-second count fits easily into a broadcast cue. It fits into a camera shot. It fits into a stage manager's plan. It fits into a host's breath. So once 10 became common, it stayed common. Repetition turns a choice into a tradition. And tradition turns into expectation. But it is also true that not everyone uses 10. Some places mark the moment with chimes, bells, or gongs. Some count down from a different number. Some sing through the transition instead of counting. Some focus on a prayer or a wish. So the ritual is flexible. What matters is the shared boundary, not the number itself. The number is a handle you can hold. The boundary is the doorway you step through. If you feel yourself drifting right now, that is perfect. This is a good chapter to let the words soften and just keep the rhythm. Counting is already a rhythm. Even hearing about counting can feel like a lullaby pattern. Now let's notice one more subtle effect of a countdown. It compresses time into a small, meaningful unit. It turns an hour of waiting into one clear moment of arrival. That is why people who do not care about the party still care about the count. The count is the signal that the boundary is here. It is the sound of arrival. It is also a moment when permission changes. Before midnight, you are still in the old year story. After midnight, you are allowed to speak the new story. You can say, Happy New Year, and it makes sense. You can make a toast, and it feels official. You can send a message, and it feels timely. The countdown gives everyone the same permission at once. That is a powerful social tool. It prevents awkwardness. It prevents someone from starting too early and feeling alone. It prevents people from missing the moment because they were distracted. It gathers the room and says, now. In a crowd, you can feel the shift in micro ways. People straighten their posture. Faces lift. Phones appear, then disappear. Hands hover near glasses or hugs. Breathing changes slightly because bodies prepare for a cue. This is not dramatic science. It is ordinary coordination made visible. If you want, later at midnight, notice how your body anticipates it. Notice if you hold your breath. Notice if your shoulders rise. Notice if your attention narrows. Just noticing can make the ritual feel softer and more interesting. Now, another gentle link we will pay off in a later chapter. Countdowns are not only for midnight, they are used for launches, openings, and performances. Any moment that needs a shared start can use a countdown. That tells us something about the countdown's real function. It creates a synchronized beginning. New Year's just happens to be the most widely shared beginning moment we have. And because it is widely shared, it becomes emotionally strong. Now, a quiet note about sound and togetherness. When a group counts, the numbers are not only information, they are a chant. Chants are ancient tools for bonding because they align breath and timing. You can think of the countdown as a modern chant that ends in a doorway. And after the doorway, there is release. Cheers, sighs, laughter, hugs, or simple silence. Even if you are alone, you might feel a tiny release. Because your mind completes a pattern. Completion feels satisfying. 10 down to 1 is a pattern with a clear finish. That is another reason 10 feels right. It has a clean ending. It feels like closing a book cover. Now you might wonder if the countdown makes time feel more real. In a sense, it does. Not because time becomes truer, but because your attention becomes sharper. You are watching the boundary approach. You are participating in the boundary approaching, and participation increases meaning. We can say it in one calm sentence. Counting down turns a calendar label into a felt moment, and doing it together turns a felt moment into a shared memory. This sets up our next open loop. Soon we will connect this to resolutions and fresh starts, because a marked boundary can change how you judge your past and plan your future. But before we go there, we will visit the places that turned counting down into a public stage, places that built a visible countdown for the world to watch. So now that we have the urge to count together, let's step into the iconic stages that host the count. Think of a countdown stage as a city's doorway into the new year. It is not only a place to stand, it is a symbol that says, this is where our shared moment lives. Public squares work well because they concentrate light, sound, and visibility. They give a crowd one clear direction to face, and they give cameras one clear scene to share. That is our open loop for later. Broadcasts can make a faraway square feel strangely personal. For now, stay with the simple template. A gathering place, a visible marker, a shared count, and a release. The release might be music, fireworks, bells, or even a quiet cheer. Most iconic countdown sites follow that same gentle recipe. They only change the local ingredients. If you want to keep it cozy, pick one small detail to imagine. One light, one chime, one ripple of reflection on water. Now we visit the best-known template in the modern imagination, Times Square in New York City. It is bright, crowded, and carefully organized. Yet the core idea is very simple. Make time visible so everyone can see the same seconds. The signature element is a glowing sphere that slowly descends. It is like a friendly visual hourglass, but vertical. You do not need to understand clocks to understand it. Down means closer. Still means arrived. That is why the ritual films so well. It communicates the last moments with one glance. This is the idea of a visible second. A second you can almost point at in the air. In winter, the crowd becomes part of the image too. Coats, hats, scarves, and patient waiting. Confetti often drifts down like soft paper snow. Even that confetti has a job. It makes the air look full of change. It fills the space between old and new with something you can see. For people watching at home, it turns time into texture. Times Square also shows how a place becomes a tradition through repetition. The same corner, the same camera angles, the same cues. Over years, the ritual becomes familiar, and familiarity can feel comforting even in a noisy setting. Now, here is a gentle imagination prompt. If your town had a drop, what object would it be? Not a logo, not a billboard, just a symbol of local identity. A lantern, a simple star, a tiny model of a bridge, a piece of fruit, a snowflake, a seashell. Cities that copy the drop idea often choose something like that. A friendly object that tells outsiders this is who we are. The object becomes the city's shorthand, and the descent becomes the city's way of making time visible. You can think of it as a small theater of seconds. Now, Times Square has many global cousins, and some are quieter. Some cities prefer towers and chimes to moving objects. A tower is already a vertical symbol, so it becomes a natural anchor for midnight. A chime is also simple. You can hear it without seeing it. and you can share it in a crowd without a screen. In London, people often listen for the chimes of a famous clock tower. That sound is a kind of public permission. It says, now. In some places, the midnight moment is marked by temple bells. A deep bell has a different mood than fireworks. It turns the boundary into reflection rather than spectacle. It reminds you that a new year can be a quiet inward step. Other cities use harbors as their stage. Water naturally reflects light, doubling the image. Fireworks over water can look softer because reflections blur the edges. A harbor show also creates a wide horizon to look at together. In Sydney, for example, the harbor setting becomes a signature part of the night. The bridge and shoreline give the sky a frame, and the water gives the light a second life. Even if you dislike loud sound, you can understand why water is chosen. It makes the scene feel spacious. Some cities lean into skyline identity. They use tall buildings and light shows that climb upward. Upward light suggests hope, like dawn arriving early. Other cities lean into street-level warmth. Music, dancing, and slow, steady crowd movement. In Scotland, the New Year season is often linked with Hogmanay traditions, street gatherings, songs, and a feeling of communal welcome. It is another reminder that New Year's Eve can be more than a single countdown. It can be a whole cultural mood. Some places feature fireworks as the main marker, with a count as a lead-in. Some places feature music as the marker, with a song carrying people across the boundary. Some places barely count at all. They wait for a bell, a prayer, or a moment of silence. The template is flexible. What stays constant is the shared boundary. Now let's talk about why iconic sites feel iconic. It is not only their size, it is their clarity. A good countdown stage gives you a simple story. It tells you where to look. It tells you what to wait for. It tells you how to feel the arrival. This is why architecture matters. Towers, bridges, and open squares are already built for attention. They are landmarks in daylight. At midnight, they become landmarks in time. A bridge can feel like a literal threshold. One side to the other, old year to new year. A tower can feel like a steady spine for the city, and a square can feel like a shared living room. Now, remember the midnight wave from the last chapter. Each iconic location is one crest of that wave, a place where cameras gather and where a city presents itself. But the wave continues past the cameras. Most New Year moments happen far from landmarks. They happen in kitchens, small apartments, and quiet streets. That is not lesser. It is just a different scale of the same ritual. Iconic stages can also mirror local values. Some cities emphasize precision and ceremony. The count is clean, the cues are controlled, and the boundary is crisp. Other cities emphasize joy and music. The boundary is softened by singing and movement. Other cities emphasize light and reflection. The boundary becomes a sky painting that fades gently into night. Even clothing becomes part of local tradition. In one place, people bundle against cold. In another, they wear light summer fabrics and stand near water. In some places, people wear specific colors for luck. In others, they carry small objects like candles or sparklers. And after midnight, many crowds have an unspoken routine. Some hug strangers. Some call family. Some head for food. Some simply start walking home, quiet and relieved. Crowds even develop micro-traditions about where to stand. A certain corner with the best view, a spot near a railing, a familiar street sign. These patterns return each year, like migrating birds of habit. If you are listening from bed, you can enjoy the idea without the noise. Picture the crowd as soft silhouettes. Picture the light as warm and distant. Picture the marker as gentle, not harsh. One glowing object descending. One set of chimes floating across a river. One small firework bloom reflected twice. Now we return briefly to Times Square as a template. Part of its influence is timing. It occurs early enough for many time zones to watch at a reasonable hour. Part of it is media history. Over time, repeated broadcasts taught audiences what a countdown looks like. They made the ritual feel standardized, even though it is not universal. This leads to a calm observation. Iconic stages do not only host tradition, they teach tradition. They teach the sequence people copy at home. Wait, count, cheer, kiss, toast, call someone, eat something sweet. Even when you do none of those things, you know the script. That is how cultural templates work. They become familiar options. Now let's compare a few cousin styles gently, like postcards, harbor style, wide sky, reflected light, and a feeling of openness, tower style. A single sound cue and a sense of ceremony. Square style, a tight crowd, visible markers, and a shared voice. Hilltop style, distant beacons, and the sense of watching from above. Neighborhood style, small groups, soft laughter, and personal rituals. All of these can be a new year. They simply speak different dialects of the same language. Here is another quiet engagement prompt. Which style feels most like you? Harbor, tower, square, hilltop, or home? You do not have to choose forever. Just notice which image calms you the most. Now, a small detail about why drops are so popular as local adaptations. They turn time into motion. Motion is easy to perceive, even from far away. Motion also creates suspense without demanding loud sound. Downward motion feels like a closing, and closing is exactly what an old year needs. A door closes. A new door opens. That doorway theme keeps returning because it matches the human feeling. Some cities even prefer upward motion, like lights rising. That feels like opening, like morning. Either way, the point is the same. Make the boundary visible. Now, keep our next chapter in mind as a soft tease. These stages do not reach most people directly. Songs and screens do. So after public squares, we move to living rooms. We move to broadcasts, theme songs, and the shared script learned at home. For now, let the iconic places fade into one calm image. A city landmark under a dark sky. A gentle marker, a shared count, and a quiet release. And the feeling that somewhere the midnight wave is always arriving. From public squares, we move to the songs and screens that synchronized millions. New Year's Eve is not only a clock moment, it is also a soundscape, a set of familiar cues that tell you what comes next. Tonight's chapter is about how songs and broadcasts turned midnight into a shared script. Here is a gentle question to start. Do you associate New Year with a song or with silence? Some people want a chorus that gathers everyone together. Some people want a quiet room where the year turns without any announcement. Both are real kinds of celebration, and both can feel complete. A closing song can act like a soft landing after the boundary moment. It tells the body the main event has passed, and you can let go. That is why certain songs return year after year. They are less like entertainment and more like a ritual blanket. The most famous example in the English-speaking world is Auld Lang Syne. The title is often understood as a question about old times and old friendships. Even if you do not know every lyric, the melody carries the feeling of remembering. It is a song that sounds like looking back with warmth and a little distance. One reason it works at midnight is that it turns celebration into reflection. It gently bridges the doorway, so the new year does not feel abrupt. It also invites connection, because it is usually sung together. When many voices sing the same simple line, the room becomes one room. The song's roots are often linked with Scotland and with older folk traditions. It was shaped and popularized through printed collections, then carried outward by migration. Once a song enters the habit of a community, it can travel farther than any person. It rides on memory and on the comfort of repetition. In different places, the same melody can appear with different words. Some communities translate it and some replace it with a local closing song instead. The function matters more than the exact tune. People want a communal ending that becomes a beginning. Even a short hum can do that job. In some countries, the midnight song is a national anthem or a seasonal carol. In others, it is a pop song that happened to become tradition by repetition. The pattern is the same, a shared sound that says we crossed together. If you are a silence person, you might still have a sound marker. A kettle click, a clock tick, a soft message arriving on your phone. Silence is not empty. It is just a different kind of cue. Now let's slide from music into media, because media taught people a script. Before broadcasts, midnight was mostly local. Your town square, your church bell, your family table, your own sky. Radio changed that by carrying a single moment into many homes at once. Suddenly, you could listen to a distant crowd while sitting in a quiet room. You could feel part of a bigger event without leaving your chair. Radio also carried time signals that sounded official and precise. Those signals built trust because they came from institutions that kept careful time. This is one reason a broadcast countdown can feel authoritative. It speaks with calm certainty, and your mind relaxes into that certainty. Television added a new layer, a visible marker, not only a voice, a clock graphic, a descending object, a host pointing at the moment. Television turned the countdown into a shared choreography. People learned where to look, when to count, and when to cheer. Over time, this created something like a national midnight in many countries. Not a literal midnight for everyone, but a cultural midnight that everyone recognizes. It becomes the reference moment that conversation returns to. Did you watch it? Becomes part of the tradition. This is also where the time zone puzzle returns, softly. One broadcast cannot be perfectly right for everyone on a large planet. Some viewers will watch early, some will watch late, and some will watch a replay. Yet the shared script still works because the feeling is the point. Even when there is a small delay, people accept it as part of the ritual. Your body responds to the cue, not to the nanosecond. In the middle of all this, the host becomes a guide. A steady host voice can make a living room feel like a front row seat. The host names the moment, and naming makes it feel real. This is similar to counting down in a crowd. Someone says the number, and everyone arrives together. Broadcasts also compress the long midnight wave into a simple story. They pick one city, one stage, and treat it like the center of the night. If you like calm truth, remember that the planet celebrates for many hours. But stories prefer one scene, so screens give you one scene. That single scene can become comforting through repetition. You recognize the music sting, the camera angle, the familiar sequence of events. It is like hearing a bedtime story you already know. Now we shift to modern streaming, which changed the shared room again. A live stream can be watched anywhere on any schedule with any chosen community. Live chat creates a new kind of crowd made of text instead of voices. People count down with emojis, short messages, and gentle jokes. It is still synchrony, just quieter and more personal. Streaming also lets people choose their midnight. Some choose local time because it matches their body and their window. Some choose a favorite city's countdown because the scene feels magical to them. Some choose a friend's time zone so they can celebrate together across distance. In a way, time zones become a menu of shared moments. You can join the wave at the time that feels best for you. There is also a growing interest in low-stimulation New Year choices. Quiet videos, ambient countdowns, candlelit music, and soft reflection playlists. Some people treat the night like a closing ritual for the nervous system. Dim lights, warm tea, a short list of grateful memories, then sleep. That is still a celebration, just designed for gentleness. It is also a quiet correction to the idea that New Year must be loud. Modern life is already loud for many people, so a calmer script can feel like care. If you want to personalize this, choose your New Year identity for tonight. Are you a song person, a silence person, a screen person, or a crowd person? You can carry that identity through later chapters, like a soft thread. When we reach resolutions, notice how your chosen script affects your mood. A song can make you sentimental. Silence can make you clear. A screen can make you feel connected. A crowd can make you feel brave. All of these moods can shape what you promise yourself next. Now, a last gentle detail about Auld Lang Syne. One reason it persists is that it does not demand perfection. It does not ask for a new personality, only for remembrance and kindness. It says we were here together, and we can be here again. In that way, a closing song becomes a beginning song, and that is the quiet secret of New Year soundtracks. They soften the edge of time so you can step over it comfortably. Long before streaming, families gathered around a single radio set like a small hearth. The warm dial glow, a little crackle, and then a voice saying the moment is near. That voice could turn a quiet room into part of a wider community for one night. Television later added images, creating a shared picture of celebration for viewers at home. It also created traditions inside the broadcast, like gentle recaps that close the year like a scrapbook. In some places, broadcasters timed the countdown to an official time signal to build trust. In others, they followed the stage clock, because it is the clearest cue for a crowd. Live feeds can arrive with tiny delays through cameras, satellites, and networks. So the crowd might reach one heartbeat before your speakers do. Most people accept that easily, because the ritual is togetherness, not laboratory precision. Songs help because they do not require perfect synchronization to feel shared. Even if voices are slightly offset, the room still becomes one room. Before mobile phones, people used late-night calls to share the chorus across distance. Now messages and voice notes create a gentle social echo after midnight. For many listeners, that echo feels like the real celebration, more than the screen. That is why a familiar script can feel like care, and why you are allowed to choose a calmer version. Some shows even pause for a quiet toast on screen, giving viewers permission to breathe and soften into the first minutes of the year. If you are getting sleepy, let your shoulders relax on the next breath. Let the chapter end like a fading melody, not like a sharp stop. Because next, we will pause for a cozy check-in and then move toward fireworks and food. Quick cozy check-in, and then we continue. If this is helping you unwind, you can subscribe for more long, calm fact journeys like this. And if you feel like it, leave one word in the comments so future videos lean your way. Just history or science or traditions. No pressure at all, all right? Now, gently into the sky and into the soft reason humans make light at midnight. Now, gently into the sky. Fireworks can be loud in real life, but we can talk about them in a calm way. Tonight we focus on the soft reasons they feel right at year boundaries, and we will keep the attention on light, color, and slow pattern. Here is an open loop for later. Soon we will compare fireworks with quieter modern alternatives. For now, let's start with the simple feeling. A year boundary is invisible, so humans often make a visible marker. A bright sky moment says, the threshold has passed. It turns a calendar change into something you can see. In that sense, the sky becomes a temporary calendar. Not a page you read, but a scene you witness. A sudden bloom of light also creates a shared reference point. Everyone looking up can see the same moment. Even if you are far apart, the same flash can connect you. That is one reason light rituals appear in many cultures. Light says safety, gathering, and continuity through darkness. A fire in a hearth says, the group is still here. A candle says, we can see each other's faces. A lantern says, we can walk together. Fireworks are a modern engineered version of that ancient comfort. They paint the sky with proof that the night is not empty. There is also a playful side. Fireworks turn the sky into a canvas, and humans love making marks on big canvases. We like to signal, to announce, and to celebrate with something larger than ourselves. At a year boundary, that impulse can feel especially strong because the boundary can feel like a cliff edge in the mind. Light makes it feel like a bridge instead. Now we move into the gentle science. Fireworks are chemistry and physics performing together. They are built to do three things at once: make light, make color, and shape the light into a pattern. Each of those goals has its own set of ingredients and design choices. At the center is a small burst of heat and gas. That heat excites tiny particles so they release light. The colors come from specific chemical compounds, often metal salts. When heated, those compounds emit light at characteristic colors. In a calm way, you can think of it like a musical instrument. Different materials sing different colors when they are energized. Strontium compounds are often used for reds. Barium compounds are often used for greens. Sodium tends to glow yellow, the same warm color you see in old streetlights. Copper compounds can give blues, though blue can be harder to produce clearly in fireworks. Magnesium and aluminum can create bright white sparks. Titanium can add a glittering effect with branching sparks. These are not random choices. They are part of a planned palette. The fireworks designer is like a painter who chooses pigments, but the brush is heat. Now, fireworks are not just a pile of powders. They are carefully packed shells. A shell is like a small container that holds stars. Stars are little pellets that burn and glow as they fly outward. The pattern you see in the sky depends on how those stars are arranged inside the shell. If the stars are arranged in a ring, you can get a ring pattern. If they are arranged in layers, you can get layered effects. If they are arranged with gaps, you can get shapes that feel like flowers. The burst charge in the center pushes everything outward at the right moment. Timing matters because the shell needs to rise first. So the shell is launched upward, often with a lifting charge. Inside, a fuse burns for a set delay. That delay is designed so the shell opens near the peak of its arc. If it opens too early, the pattern is low and messy. If it opens too late, the shell may fall before the pattern fully blooms. So the choreography is engineered, not random. Even the hang time of sparkles is chosen by materials and burn rates. Some compositions burn quickly, creating sharp points. Others burn slowly, creating a soft waterfall of light. Now we add a gentle physics detail that makes fireworks feel more human. Light arrives to you almost instantly. Sound arrives a little later. So even one firework has two arrivals. First, the silent bloom. Then, after a pause, the distant sound. That gap is a reminder that timing depends on how signals travel. If you have ever watched lightning and heard thunder later, it is the same idea. Light travels extremely fast, while sound travels much slower through air. So your eyes and ears are receiving the same event on different schedules. At midnight, that can feel poetic. A visual boundary, then an audio echo, as if the night is repeating the moment back to you. If you want a quiet engagement prompt, choose your favorite version of fireworks. Do you prefer quiet sparkle or distant, soft light? Some people like small, low crackle sparkles that feel like falling snow. Some people like faraway bursts where the sound is softened by distance. Some people love the reflection on water more than the burst itself. The reflection turns fireworks into a double image, and doubles can feel soothing. In some places, people watch from a hill or balcony away from the crowd. They still share the sky, but with more quiet around them. That is a nice compromise for sensitive listeners. Now we also need a calm reality check. Fireworks can be dangerous when used incorrectly. They involve heat, pressure, and burning material in the air. So modern guidelines focus on distance, trained operators, and safe launch zones. This is one reason many communities prefer public displays. A coordinated display can be safer than many small private ones. It also creates a clearer shared moment, which is part of the appeal. But Even public displays can have downsides that people are thinking about more now. Loud sound can be stressful for some people and for many animals. Pets may hide, shake, or try to run. Wildlife can be startled and may flee in confusing directions. This is part of why some cities have explored quieter options. The desire is understandable. Keep the ritual of light without the harshness. One approach is lower noise fireworks designed to reduce the sharp pressure peaks. Another approach is to shift toward light shows using lasers or drones. Drone displays can draw moving patterns in the sky with very little sound. Laser shows can paint buildings and clouds with color and shape. These alternatives can keep the feeling of a sky marker without the same impact. They also offer new styles of storytelling, like images that slowly transform. Some communities also choose simpler, quieter traditions. A candle by the window, a lantern walk, a small sparkler in a safe place with distance and care, or no skylight at all, just indoor warmth. The point is that the ritual is adaptable. It can change shape while keeping the core meaning. That meaning is a visible boundary and a shared moment. If you are drifting off, that is completely fine. This chapter is designed to be soothing, not loud. You can let the details about chemicals fade and just keep the image of slow color. A calm sky, a gentle bloom, a soft reflection. Now, here is one more small science detail that can make fireworks feel even more planned. Color is not only about ingredients. It is also about temperature and oxygen. A color can look different depending on how hot it burns and how it mixes with air. So designers tune mixtures to reach the right heat for the color they want. Blue, for example, can be delicate because it often needs a specific temperature range to look clean. Too hot or too cool, and it can wash out toward white or greenish tones. So when you see a clear, deep blue, you are seeing careful tuning. That kind of tuning is a quiet triumph of practical chemistry. Patterns also depend on the shell's symmetry and the timing of its burst. A perfectly round bloom suggests balanced packing and a centered burst. A lopsided bloom can happen when wind pushes the shell or when the packing is uneven. This is why wind matters so much in real displays. Wind can stretch patterns into streaks and shift where embers fall. That is why operators pay attention to weather and safety zones. Even the height of the burst is chosen. Higher bursts give more space for patterns to open and fade. Lower bursts can feel more intense and immediate. At a New Year boundary, many displays aim for high, wide blooms. They want the sky to feel big. They want the marker to feel unmistakable. But again, the style varies by place. Some cultures prefer quieter light traditions that do not explode. Lanterns drifting upward can carry wishes without sharp sound. Candles in a river can turn water into a moving constellation. Bonfires can gather a community into a circle with steady warmth. All of these belong to the same family of light rituals. Fireworks are just one modern branch of that family. Now we connect back to our broader story. We began with calendars, then clocks, then time zones, then the countdown. Fireworks fit because they make the boundary visible for the whole body. You see it. You feel it. You hear it, sometimes later as an echo. It becomes a full sensory marker that says, we are on the other side now. And because it is shared, it can feel like a social anchor. Even people who do not love fireworks often understand the symbol. Light in the dark at the turning of the year. The human love of skylight is partly science and partly story. Science explains how colors appear. Story explains why we gather to watch them. In a later chapter, we will talk more about modern cozy New Year's. And we will revisit the idea that ritual can keep the meaning while changing the form. For now, let the fireworks image soften into a gentle glow. A slow bloom of color fading into night. From the sky, we move to the table next, because many people trust food at midnight to do the same job. To mark a boundary and to carry a wish into the year ahead. After skylight, we come back down to something simple and close. A table. A plate. A small bite taken at the edge of the year. This chapter is about lucky foods and why food becomes luck in the first place. Here is an open loop we will carry forward. Soon we will connect food to superstition and first actions after midnight. For now, let's start with the gentle truth. Food is one of the easiest rituals humans have. It is tangible, it is repeatable, and it is shareable. If you want a tradition you can do every year, food is reliable. You do not need special equipment. You do not need a crowd. You need a moment and something to eat. That is why midnight eating turns a normal snack into a boundary marker. The clock changes and you taste the change. Even one bite can make the new year feel real. Food also carries meaning through shape and texture. Humans are pattern makers. We look at a round food and think of a coin. We look at many small pieces and think of abundance. We look at a long strand and think of a long life. This is not logic in a strict sense. It is symbolic thinking, and it is very old. Symbols help the mind hold hope without needing certainty. Now, here is a quiet engagement prompt. If you had to pick one lucky texture for the new year, which would you choose? Crisp, soft, or warm? Just choose one in your mind, like a small personal anchor. Crisp can feel like a clean start. Soft can feel like comfort. Warm can feel like care. Any of those can be a good wish. Now let's look at common symbolism patterns that show up around the world. Round foods often stand for coins, prosperity, or a full cycle. Think of rings, circles, and bowls filled to the edge. In some places, people serve ring-shaped cakes or donuts like pastries. In others, people set out bowls of grapes or small fruits that resemble little counted units. Even a simple round loaf can feel like a year made whole. Long foods often stand for long life and long continuity. Noodles are a classic example. When people eat long noodles, the wish is often to keep the thread unbroken. That is why some noodle traditions encourage you not to cut the strands, not as a strict rule, but as a symbolic gesture. A long strand becomes a visual metaphor for the year you want. Many pieces often stand for abundance and many blessings. Small counted items are perfect for this because you can literally see many. Legumes and grains fit here because they look like tiny units you can measure. Lentils, beans, peas, rice, and seeds often carry prosperity symbolism. They are small, numerous, and associated with storing food for the future. In some places, lentils are linked with coin imagery because of their shape. In others, black-eyed peas carry a good fortune reputation in New Year meals. In others, rice dishes are served because rice is a staple of life and continuity. Again, the details vary, but the logic stays similar. Many small pieces equals the hope of plenty. Now let's take a slow trip across a few midnight plates, like gentle postcards. In parts of Spain, a famous tradition involves grapes at midnight. People eat grapes in rhythm with the clock, often one per chime. The idea is tied to bringing luck through the months ahead. It is also a playful test of timing, which turns the count into a snack ritual. Whether the origin is marketing, local harvest patterns, or older custom is often debated, but the modern practice is clear. Grapes become a sweet, counted bridge into the year. In parts of Italy, lentils appear at New Year because they resemble small coins. They are often served with sausage or another hearty dish. The meal says, "May your year be full and sustaining." In Japan, many households eat soba noodles near the year boundary. The noodles are long, and the meal is associated with continuity and letting go of hardship. Different regions have different variations, but the noodle symbol is widely recognized. In China, and in many Chinese communities worldwide, New Year foods vary by regional tradition, especially around Lunar New Year. But some ideas echo into January celebrations too, especially in diaspora households. Dumplings can symbolize wealth because their shape can resemble old ingots. Fish often symbolizes surplus because the word for fish and the word for surplus sounds similar in Mandarin. So fish becomes a wish that you will have more than enough. In the southern United States, black-eyed peas are well-known New Year food in many families. They are often served with greens and cornbread, each with its own symbolic meaning. Greens can stand for paper money and cornbread can suggest gold. Some people also add pork, which is sometimes linked with moving forward and richness. These meanings are folk meanings, and they can vary by family. But the ritual persists because it is repeatable and comforting. In Greece, a common New Year tradition is cutting a cake with a hidden coin, often called a vassilopeda. Whoever finds the coin is said to have good luck in the year ahead. The cake turns luck into a gentle game, shared at a table. In parts of the Netherlands and other places, fried pastries like oliebollen appear seasonally. Warm, sweet, and shared foods fit winter celebration well. Even when the symbolism is light, the warmth is the real comfort. In many places, sparkling drinks play a similar role, even if they are non-alcoholic. A shared sip becomes a boundary marker. Bubbles rising in a glass can feel like a tiny new beginning. Now, you might notice that some of these examples belong to different New Years. Some are tied to January 1st. Some are tied to Lunar New Year. Some are tied to local calendar traditions. That is fine because food rituals travel. Migration spreads rituals and local ingredients reshape them while keeping meaning. A family moves and the symbolic idea moves with them. Maybe the original ingredient is hard to find, so a similar one is used. The meaning stays because the meaning is in the gesture. This is how traditions stay alive. They adapt without announcing that they are adapting. A grape becomes a raisin or a small berry. A local bean replaces a distant bean. A symbolic round bread replaces a specific cake. The rule is not the recipe. The rule is the wish. Now, let's talk about small count rituals in a gentle way. Many New Year foods involve eating a set number of items. The number might stand for months, wishes, or blessings. Counting also fits the countdown theme from earlier. It turns eating into rhythm. It makes the boundary feel deliberate. But if you do not like strict rituals, you can keep it simple. Modern versions can be one bite, one sip, and one small intention. Ritual without pressure. You can choose one warm food that feels friendly to your body. You can take one bite after midnight and think, may this year be kind. That is enough to make a tradition, because tradition is mostly repetition plus meaning. Now here is a sleepy reset. If you are getting drowsy, imagine a quiet table, one warm light, one simple food, a bowl of something soft, like soup or porridge, a small piece of bread, a slice of fruit. The details do not matter. The feeling is what matters. The year begins with nourishment. Nourishment is a powerful symbol because it is survival and care at once. When people say a food is lucky, they often mean it carries the feeling of being provided for. A full pantry feels like security. A full plate feels like abundance. A shared meal feels like belonging. So food luck is really social luck, turned into a bite. Now, a calm note about origins. Many folk food traditions do not have one clean beginning you can pin to a single date. They grow from seasons, local agriculture, and family habits. Sometimes a tradition gains popularity through a news story or a campaign. Sometimes it spreads because it is fun and easy to copy. Sometimes it deepens because it matches an older symbol already in the culture. So it is wise to hold origins gently. Instead of insisting on one true origin, it can be better to say, this is how people use it now. That keeps the tradition respectful and honest. It also fits the larger theme we have been building. Calendars change. Timekeeping changes. Traditions adapt. The meaning is the part that stays. Now, let's connect lucky foods to the idea of the year as a doorway. A doorway feels uncertain. Food reduces uncertainty because it is concrete. You can hold it. You can taste it. You can share it. So food is a way to step into the doorway with something in your hand. It says, I am not empty-handed at the start of the year. Even if that is only symbolic, it can feel calming. And if you share the food, it also says we are stepping in together. Now, remember your chosen texture from earlier. Crisp, soft, or warm. Carry that choice into the next chapter, because the next chapter is about small rituals around the home. What people do first after midnight, and why that first action can feel powerful. Food is often part of that first action. A first bite, a first sip, a first shared plate. So as we move on, keep the image of a gentle midnight table. A simple dish, a small wish, and the feeling of beginning with care. Now we'll look at those first actions and symbols and the quiet superstitions that follow the clock. Now we move from lucky foods to the small rituals that surround the home. This is the chapter of tiny scripts, quiet symbols, and first actions after midnight. Some people call these superstitions. Some call them traditions. Some call them just habits that feel right. We will keep it gentle and descriptive, not mystical. Here is the open loop we will carry forward. We will use this idea later to make resolutions feel softer and more realistic. First, why do superstitions feel strongest at boundaries? Because boundaries feel open. A boundary is a moment where the future is not written yet. Even if you know nothing magical happens, your mind still senses a gap. And when people feel a gap, they often reach for ritual. Not because they are irrational, but because ritual creates a sense of agency. Agency is the feeling that your actions matter. At year change, so much is uncontrollable. Weather, health, work, world events, other people's choices. So it can feel comforting to do something small that you can control. Light one candle, sweep one corner, take one bite of a lucky food, say one phrase. Tiny actions turn uncertainty into a shape you can hold. There is also a simpler reason rituals appear at midnight: decision fatigue. After a long day, you do not want to invent the moment from scratch. A superstition is often a tiny script that reduces choices. Do this first. Avoid that first. Start the year with this, not with that. Scripts conserve mental energy, and they can feel like tradition, which adds comfort. Now, here is a calm engagement prompt. Do you prefer a clean slate ritual or a welcome-in ritual? Just choose one in your mind. Clean slate rituals focus on clearing the old. Welcome-in rituals focus on inviting the new. Both are ways of shaping the doorway moment. Let's start with home rituals that emphasize first actions. In several cultures, there are first foot traditions. The idea is that the first person to enter a home after midnight carries symbolic momentum. Sometimes the first visitor is expected to bring something small, like food, fuel, or a coin. The object is not about wealth alone. It is about arriving with provision, warmth, and goodwill. In some places, the tradition prefers a certain kind of visitor, like a neighbor, a friend, or a family member. In other places, it is more about the gesture than the person. The first step becomes a story. A story that says, we begin with good company. Even if you never practice first footing, you might notice a modern version. Who do you message first? Who do you hug first? Who do you think of first? Those are first actions too, just in a different form. Now, clean slate rituals often look like cleaning, sweeping floors, taking out trash, washing dishes, tidying a drawer. These can be practical because guests may be coming, but they are also symbolic. Cleaning can symbolize making space for what comes next. It can feel like removing the old year's dust. Some people do a full deep clean before New Year's Day. Some do one small tidy task as a manageable ritual. If you chose clean slate, you might already feel why this is satisfying. The home becomes a physical metaphor for the mind. Clear surface, clear start. Welcome-in rituals often involve opening. opening doors or windows, even briefly, to let the new year in. Sometimes people do this right at midnight. Sometimes they do it in the morning as the first light arrives. The act is simple, but the meaning is clear. Air moves. The house feels refreshed, and the mind gets a cue that something shifted. Some people light a candle near the doorway for the same reason, not to ward off anything, just to mark the entrance. Now, new clothes and new objects are another common theme. Wearing something new can represent identity renewal without needing words. It says, I can step into the year as a slightly updated version of myself. Even a small new item, like socks or a scarf, can carry this feeling. In some places, specific colors are chosen for this first outfit: red for vitality, gold for prosperity, white for peace. The color meanings vary by culture and family, but the core function stays the same: a visible cue of renewal. Now we turn towards symbols that use closing and opening together. Some people make sure bills are paid or at least organized before the new year. That is a clean slate ritual in financial form. Others prefer to begin the year with a full pantry or a full fridge. That is a welcome in ritual of abundance. Some avoid starting the year with an empty house. They want to begin with warmth, company, and food. Again, the details vary, but the psychological shape is familiar. Begin with what you want more of. Now, let's talk about noise traditions in a calm way. Noise is common at year boundaries around the world. Sometimes it is clearly celebratory, like music and cheering. Sometimes it is protective in older symbolic systems, like driving away bad luck or unwanted spirits. Whether you take that literally or not, noise has a practical social function. It announces a boundary to everyone at once. It turns a private clock change into a public moment. In earlier times, bells and drums did this job. Today, fireworks and music often do it. Even a simple pot clanged in a kitchen can become a tiny boundary bell. But because loud noise can be stressful, many people now prefer softer versions. A gentle bell tone on a phone, a quiet playlist that crescendos and then settles, a single toast glass tap. These are still noise rituals, just kind ones. Now, water rituals have a different mood. Water is often used to symbolize washing away the old year. A bath before midnight. A shower on New Year's morning. Washing hands with intention. In some places, people pour water outside or sprinkle water as a sign of cleansing. Even if you do not do any of this, you can feel why water becomes a symbol. Water changes form, flows, and renews. It is the opposite of stuck. So water rituals can set a calm tone. They say, we are not dragging the old year into the new by force. We are letting it rinse away. Now notice a pattern that connects everything we have covered. These rituals are gentle ways to tell the brain, a chapter ended. They create a boundary you can feel. They reduce uncertainty by giving you a script. And they reduce decision fatigue by making the first moments simple. This is why tiny acts can feel strangely powerful, not because they control fate, but because they control attention, and attention shapes experience. Here is another small category of rituals. Writing. Some people write a word they want to carry into the year. Calm, health, focus, kindness. Others write something they want to release. A fear, a habit, a worry. Sometimes they keep the paper. Sometimes they tear it up. Sometimes they safely burn it as a symbolic closing. These are modern, gentle rituals that fit many belief systems because they are really about narrative. They help you name the story you want to live. Now we link this back to food for a moment. Food rituals are often first actions too. A first bite of something sweet, a first sip of something warm, a first meal that feels nourishing. In some families, the first food of the year is chosen carefully. In others, it is just whatever is on the table, made special by timing. Timing is the secret ingredient. Midnight turns ordinary into symbolic. Now, there are also avoidance rituals, which can sound negative, but usually have a soothing purpose. Some people avoid arguing on New Year's Day. Some avoid crying because they do not want the first day to feel heavy. Some avoid taking out trash because it can feel like throwing away luck. You do not need to adopt these ideas, but you can notice the logic. People want the first moments to be clean signals of the year they hope for, so they try to remove anything that feels like a bad signal. It is a kind of emotional hygiene. It says, let the first page be gentle. Now, let's revisit your choice. Clean slate or welcome in. If you chose clean slate, you might like rituals that close and clear. A tidy room, a finished task, a washed cup, a quiet reset. If you chose welcome in, you might like rituals that invite and open. A lit candle, an open window for a breath, a shared meal, a message to someone you love. Neither is better. They are just different ways of caring for your mind at a boundary, and you can change your style each year based on what you need. If the year felt chaotic, clean slate may feel soothing. If the year felt lonely, welcome in may feel soothing. Now, we prepare the bridge into resolutions. Because once you see what rituals do, resolutions make more sense. A resolution is a ritual written in language. It is a way of telling your brain, we are turning a page. But unlike a candle or a meal, a resolution can become heavy if it is too big. So in the next chapter, we will keep it gentle. We will talk about fresh starts and habit science without pressure. For now, let this chapter end with one tiny action you can imagine doing. Not to control the year, just to mark it kindly. A sip of water, a slow breath, a small light, a whispered word, and the calm feeling of stepping through the doorway with care. Now we arrive at the ritual that is written in language, resolutions. For some people, the word feels hopeful. For others, it feels heavy. Tonight we keep it calm, low pressure, and practical. Here is the open loop for later in this chapter. We will end with modern low-pressure approaches that keep the meaning without guilt. First, why does January feel different? Because people naturally segment time into chapters. Your mind does this even if you never try. A school term is a chapter. A new job is a chapter. A move is a chapter. A birthday can be a chapter. And a new year is a very large chapter break shared by millions of people. A big shared chapter break can amplify motivation. It makes change feel more possible because it feels socially supported. You are not the only one turning a page. That shared page turn can make the future feel closer and clearer. There is a simple idea from psychology that helps explain this. People do a kind of mental accounting. They sort their lives into categories like effort, health, relationships, and time. A chapter break makes it easier to close an old account and open a new one. Not perfectly, but emotionally. You can say, that was last year. You can say, this is the new chapter. Even if nothing else changed, the label changes how you interpret your story. That is why a fresh start feeling can arrive just from a new calendar page. You saw this in earlier chapters. A boundary makes a private feeling public and official. A resolution is the same thing, but expressed as a sentence. It is a way to answer two quiet questions. What stays? And what goes? Some people reflect on the year and feel clarity. Others feel a blur of unfinished tasks. Either way, a boundary invites reflection. And reflection plus a boundary can create a sense of possibility. Now, we talk gently about why resolutions often fail. Not to shame anyone, just to remove the mystery and make things softer. One reason is that environment often beats willpower. Willpower is real, but it is fragile when you are tired, stressed, or busy. Environment is what your day keeps placing in front of you. Your kitchen, your phone, your commute, your friends, your schedule. If your environment makes a habit easy, it tends to happen more. If your environment makes a habit hard, it tends to fade, even if you care. So, a calmer way to think about change is to shape default choices. Make the desired action the easy path. Not by forcing yourself, but by reducing friction. Another reason resolutions fail is vagueness. A vague goal like be healthier has no clear next step. It sounds good, but it does not tell you what to do on an ordinary Tuesday. Specific cues make change easier. A cue is a trigger that tells your brain, now is the time. For example, after I brush my teeth, I drink a glass of water. After I make coffee, I step outside for 2 minutes of daylight. After I lie down, I do one slow breathing pattern. These are gentle cues that fit into life. A third reason is all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking says, if I miss one day, I failed. That style is harsh, and it often creates rebound. Rebound is when you swing back hard because you feel discouraged. A softer approach uses tiny commitments. Tiny commitments build consistency, and consistency is often the real engine of change. Now here is a calm engagement prompt, just for your mind. If you had one gentle goal, which would it be? Sleep, water, movement, or kindness? Pick one quietly. You are not signing a contract. You are just choosing a calming direction. Sleep is a foundation goal because it supports many other changes. Water is a quiet care goal because hydration affects energy and mood. Movement is a body goal because even small motion supports circulation and calm. Kindness is a social and inner goal because it changes how days feel. Any of these is enough for your theme. Now we move into a sleep-friendly resolution framework. No intensity, no guilt, just a way to soothe the planning mind. Step 1 is to pick one identity word. An identity word is not a strict target. It is a feeling of how you want to show up. Steady, gentle, curious, brave, clear, rested, kind. Choose a word that feels like a warm coat, not like a whip. If you chose one of the gentle goals earlier, you can match a word to it. Sleep might match rested or steady. Water might match cared for or clear. Movement might match alive or flexible. Kindness might match warm or patient. Now step 2 is to attach the word to one small repeatable behavior. Small enough that you can do it on a bad day. Because bad days are part of life, and your plan should survive them. If your word is steady, your behavior might be 2 minutes of tidying before bed. If your word is rested, your behavior might be dimming lights at a certain time. If your word is clear, your behavior might be filling a water bottle after breakfast. If your word is kind, your behavior might be one message of appreciation each week. The key is repeatable, not impressive. Step 3 is to shape the environment so the behavior happens by default. This is where we reduce friction. If you want to drink water, place a glass where you will see it. If you want to stretch, keep a mat or towel within reach. If you want to sleep earlier, place the charger away from the bed. If you want to read, put the book on the pillow in the morning, so it is waiting at night. These are tiny environmental adjustments that increase the odds. They do not guarantee anything. They simply make the easy path easier. Now step 4 is the gentlest part. Create a reset phrase for slips. A slip is not a failure. It is a normal part of learning. So you need a phrase that returns you to the theme without drama. A simple one is back to steady. If your word is kind, it could be back to kind. If your word is rested, it could be back to rest. The phrase does 2 jobs. It ends the self-criticism loop, and it restarts the habit loop. It tells the brain we are not arguing, we are returning. This is the opposite of all or nothing. It is all and again. Now notice how this framework echoes earlier chapters. It is a ritual, a tiny script at a boundary. It reduces decision fatigue because it gives you one word and one action. It creates agency because you can do the action even when life is messy. It makes the year feel like a chapter with a theme, and themes are easier than rigid goals. If you want to go one step deeper, you can add a gentle cue. Attach your behavior to something that already happens. After I brush my teeth, after I start the kettle, after I lock the door, after I get into bed. Cues make the habit feel automatic over time. And automatic is peaceful because it does not require wrestling with yourself. Now, a calm note about timelines. Some people expect a habit to feel natural quickly, but habits often grow slowly. There is no single day when your brain says done. It is more like a path that becomes smoother with repetition. So instead of asking, did I succeed? You can ask, did I reduce friction? Did I return after slips? Did I practice my word? Those questions are kinder and more useful. Now we pay off the open loop with modern low-pressure approaches. One approach is the theme year, which we are already doing with the identity word. Another is the minimum habit. You set a minimum that is almost too easy. One stretch, one page of reading, one glass of water, 1 minute of breathing. The minimum keeps the chain alive. Often, once you start, you do more, but you do not demand more. You let more be a bonus. Another approach is the seasonal reset instead of the yearly reset. You treat each month as a small chapter, or each week as a small chapter. This takes pressure off January. It says you can begin again anytime. Still, January feels different because it is culturally shared. So you can use January as a gentle start, not as a deadline. Another approach is to make a resolution about process, not outcome. Outcome is like lose a certain amount. Process is like walk after dinner most days. Process is more controllable, and it reduces stress. It increases the odds of good outcomes without promising them. Now, if you are listening in bed, let the cadence slow even more. You do not need to plan your entire year right now. You can let this chapter be a lullaby for the planning mind. One word, one small action, one reset phrase. That is enough. And you can revisit it later in daylight when your brain is fresher. If you want, hold your identity word for a moment like a smooth stone in your palm and remember the reset phrase. Back to steady, back to kind, back to rest. Whatever fits you. Now we move to the next chapter, which is lighter and a bit strange. We will take a calm walk through unusual New Year moments in history. Oddities that shaped the modern celebration, sometimes in unexpected ways. Now we take a calm walk through some odd New Year moments in history. Not dramatic, just quietly surprising. These stories show a hidden truth we have been circling all night. Time is an agreement maintained by people and institutions. And sometimes that agreement changes in ways you can feel in your daily life. First, let's talk about the strange feeling of a weird year. A weird year is when the calendar shifts under your feet. The sky keeps turning, but the labels on the days change. When calendars changed, people often told stories about lost days. Or they kept double dates in records to avoid confusion. Those stories are not only folklore. They are traces of real transitions that affected ordinary routines. One famous kind of transition is a reform that removes drift from the calendar. When officials correct drift, they may skip ahead by several dates. So one evening can be followed by a morning with a new date label. To a person living through it, that can feel like time jumped, but nothing jumped in nature. Only the bookkeeping changed to match the seasons more closely. Early adopters of the Gregorian calendar reform lived through this kind of shift. In some places, a day labeled early October was followed by a day labeled mid-October. That made festivals, contracts, and birthdays feel briefly confusing. People also worried about wages and rents because the labels matter in law. Another kind of oddity comes from how different places chose different year starts. For long periods, some regions counted the new year from late March, not January. So a winter day might be written with two possible year numbers depending on the system. To prevent mistakes, some documents used double dating, writing both years together. This is why old letters can look like they are unsure of their own time. They are not unsure. They are being careful across two competing conventions. In England and its colonies, there was also a change in when the legal year began. For a time, the legal year start was tied to late March in many records. Later, the legal year start was aligned to January 1st. So historians sometimes meet a winter date that sits between two-year labels. It is like a seam in a quilt, where patterns meet. This kind of seam teaches you how personal timekeeping can be. You may feel the year in January, but paperwork once felt it in spring. Now, another oddly gentle category is the missing days story in the British world. When Britain and its colonies adopted the Gregorian calendar, they adjusted the date forward. That adjustment meant several labeled dates were skipped in the calendar sequence. People went to bed on one labeled date and woke on another labeled date. It created confusion in diaries, court records, and everyday speech for a while. This is one reason myths about stolen time can circulate. The label shift feels emotional, even when the sky is calm. Different countries adopted reforms at different times. So for a while, neighbors in Europe could be using different date labels. A letter could cross a border and arrive with a different date name. That is another reason official institutions mattered so much. They kept the shared agreement stable inside each region. Russia made a dramatic labeled date shift after the revolution, moving to the Gregorian system. In that change, the calendar skipped forward by nearly 2 weeks in the label. So the country's recorded dates suddenly matched much of Western Europe more closely. If you read Russian history around that moment, you often see dual labels again. Old style and new style date labels appear to avoid confusion. Once more, the pattern repeats. When coordination matters, calendars change. And when calendars change, people create careful language to bridge the seam. Now let's visit one of the strangest calendar days ever used in a country. Sweden once attempted a gradual shift away from the Julian calendar. The plan was to skip leap days over many years to slowly close the gap. But the plan was applied unevenly and became confusing. So Sweden reversed course and inserted an extra day into February. That created a rare date, February 30th, used as a corrective step. It is a perfect example of time as maintenance, a one-time patch to keep the agreement coherent again. Another quiet oddity happened in Alaska when it changed hands from Russia to the United States. The region shifted not only political control, but also the calendar alignment. To match American timekeeping, the local date effectively stepped by a day. Communities experienced a practical relabeling of today. It is a reminder that geography and politics can rewrite the calendar on the ground. More recently, Samoa shifted which side of the international dateline it aligned with. This was done largely for economic coordination with nearby trading partners. The shift meant the country skipped a labeled day in the calendar. Again, no time vanished. The label changed to match the schedule the community needed. Each of these examples points to the same calm truth. A date is a tool for coordination, and tools sometimes get updated. Now let's move from calendars to celebrations during unusual eras. Because even when history gets difficult, year boundaries still arrive, and people still find ways to mark them. Sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly, sometimes at home. In wartime periods, many cities used blackouts or dimming to reduce risk. That changed how public gatherings looked and felt. Light traditions could become smaller, more sheltered, more careful. Some celebrations shifted toward indoor music and low-light rituals. In some periods, curfews or safety concerns changed when people could gather, so the boundary ritual moved earlier or moved inward to private homes. It shows how flexible tradition can be when life demands it. During epidemics and public health crises, crowds can shrink by necessity. The year still turns, but the way you mark it becomes quieter. Media can substitute for crowds, creating a shared moment without physical closeness. Radio and television have played this role many times. A distant host voice can become the public square for an evening. Even a simple time signal can feel like company. Here is a gentle engagement question, only for your own mind. Have you ever had a quiet New Year that you remember more clearly than a loud one? Many people do. A quiet boundary can feel sharper because fewer distractions compete for attention. In those quieter years, small rituals can grow more meaningful. A meal at home, a single candle, a phone call, a short walk outside. Sometimes history does not remove tradition, it distills it. Now we move to another kind of odd history, technology anxieties. These are not superstitions in the old sense. They are modern uncertainty rituals wearing a technical coat. Big milestones like new centuries often trigger extra meaning and extra worry. The approach to the year 2000 is a famous example. There was widespread concern that older computer systems might misread the new date. People worried about banking, utilities, and infrastructure. In response, societies created rituals of reassurance, checklists, tests, backup plans, extra staff on duty, broadcast updates. It was the same human pattern we have seen all night. When the unknown feels near, we build structure to soften it. And at midnight, many people watch screens not only for celebration. They watched for confirmation that the world was still steady. In most places, the moment passed calmly, and the relief became part of the memory. That relief itself is a kind of ritual closing. It says, we crossed, and we are still here. You can see similar feelings around other symbolic milestones. A new decade, a new century, a large anniversary year for a nation or a city. Round numbers can act like magnets for meaning. The mind loves a clean label, so it gathers emotions around the label. That is why certain New Years feel larger than others, even if nothing else changes. Now let's connect back to our earlier motif very softly. Time is an agreement, and agreements become visible when they are stressed or updated. Calendar reforms make the agreement visible through labeled days. Unusual eras make the agreement visible through changed gatherings. Technology worries make the agreement visible through reassurance and planning. In every case, people use structure to make uncertainty livable. If your thoughts are racing right now, you can let this history become background texture. Just a steady stream of quiet surprises. No need to hold every detail. The only detail worth keeping is the feeling. Humans keep time carefully because it helps life feel coordinated, and humans mark boundaries because it helps life feel meaningful. This also sets up our open loop. Modern devices make time feel certain because they synchronize quietly and constantly. They hide the seams that older generations felt more directly. A phone updates in the background and the agreement stays smooth. In older eras, the seams were more visible in paper calendars and public announcements. So if the past feels strange, it is partly because the seams were closer to the surface. Now, one more small historical oddity to enjoy before we move on. Even within the same date system, the official start of the year could differ by institution. A government might count one way, a church another, and a merchant ledger another. So you can find the same week described with different year labels across documents. That is not a mistake. It is a snapshot of a society negotiating its shared agreement, and negotiation is normal. It is how standards form. Standards feel eternal only after they are widely adopted. Now we are ready to return from odd history to the present, because New Year's Eve is changing again, quietly in our own time. Some changes are about noise and sustainability. Some are about streaming and chosen communities. Some are about making rituals gentler for sensitive minds. So next, after these historical themes, we step into modern cozy New Year's Eve trends. And we notice how the same old needs are being met in new shapes. After all the history and science, we return to the present moment. Modern New Year's Eve is changing, quietly in many places. Not everyone wants a party marathon anymore. More people are choosing a calm celebration, a night of recovery and reflection, not a night of endurance. There are many reasons for this shift, and none of them are strange. Life can be loud all year. So the year boundary becomes a chance to soften. Some people work early the next day. Some care for children or elders. Some feel sensitive to crowds and noise. Some simply prefer meaning over spectacle. And some are learning that rest is a kind of celebration. Digital connection also changes what is possible. You can share midnight with someone far away without traveling. A call, a voice note, a quiet video chat. One smile on a screen can replace a crowded square. So modern New Year can be intimate, even across distance. Here is an open loop for the end of the video. We will close by tying your chosen style into one simple takeaway: song, silence, screen, or crowd. For now, we explore what cozy can look like in real life. Low stimulation rituals have become more visible and more normal. Tea, warm lighting, quiet music, a slow meal, a short journal note, a short walk to look at the sky, or simply going to bed early and greeting the year with a rested brain. These rituals preserve meaning without overstimulation. They keep the boundary but remove the harsh edges. A calm ritual can still feel official if it has one clear marker: a candle lit at midnight, a short countdown whispered to yourself, a familiar song played softly, or 1 minute of quiet where you notice your breath. The point is not volume. The point is attention. Now we move into sustainability and community rules, which shape modern celebrations too. Many communities are experimenting with alternatives to traditional fireworks. The reasons can include noise, smoke, debris, fire risk, and the impact on animals. In some places, the choice is personal. In others, it becomes policy. And over time, policy can turn into a new normal. This is how traditions evolve, the same way calendars evolved. A community chooses what fits its values and constraints. Then repetition makes it feel familiar. Some alternatives focus on light without the same sound. Drone displays can create moving patterns with a gentle hum or near silence at a distance. Projection mapping can turn buildings into shifting art, like slow color on stone. Lasers can paint the air, especially when fog or mist makes beams visible. Harbor light shows can use reflections on water to double the scene. Some places use floating lanterns or candlelit walks, depending on local safety and rules. There is no single solution, only many local variations. Here is a quiet engagement prompt for your mind. Would you rather watch lights in the sky or lights on the water? Skylights feel like expansion, wide and open. Water lights feel like reflection, soft and doubled. Both can be soothing, especially when the sound is gentle or distant. Local policies and cultural values shape what becomes normal over time. In one place, noise is embraced as tradition. In another, quiet is embraced as care. In one place, smoke is tolerated. In another, clean air concerns lead to alternatives. In one place, crowds are a point of pride. In another, smaller gatherings feel safer and kinder. None of this is a rejection of celebration. It is a redesign of celebration. Now, let's build a gentle blueprint for your next New Year's Eve. This is not homework. It is a wind-down routine you can repeat any year. It is short, calm, and flexible. And you can do it alone or with others. If you are sleepy, let this blueprint feel like a lullaby list. Step 1. Pick one symbolic bite or sip. Warm and simple. Tea, cocoa, soup, fruit, bread, anything that feels nourishing. One bite is enough. The symbolism is in the timing, not in the size. Step 2, pick one boundary ritual. A countdown, a song, a candle, or silence. Choose the one that fits your nervous system. If you love structure, a short countdown can be calming. If you love feeling, a song can be calming. If you love focus, a candle can be calming. If you love spaciousness, silence can be calming. Step 3, pick one word for the year, not a strict goal, just a word that points your attention gently. Steady, kind, curious, rested, clear, brave. Choose a word that feels like an invitation, not a demand. Step 4, optional, pick one connection. One message to someone you care about, one note to yourself, one gratitude sentence, or one small promise, like back to steady. Connection makes the boundary feel warm, even if you are alone. Now let's walk through a sample cozy new year, very slowly. The lights dim an hour before midnight. A warm drink is prepared. A small snack sits ready, not as pressure, just as comfort. A playlist plays quietly, or the room stays silent. At a chosen time, maybe midnight, maybe earlier, one candle is lit. A few breaths pass. If you like, you whisper a short count from 10, or you listen to a distant broadcast at low volume. Then you take one sip, one bite, and think your word. Steady, kind, curious. Then you let the moment go. No long speeches, no harsh promises. Just a gentle marker and a gentle release. This routine is repeatable, which makes it powerful. Because repeatable rituals become anchors. They help the brain anticipate safety and closure. That is why many people return to the same calm video each year, or even many times in the same year. The ritual becomes familiar, like a favorite blanket. Now, a quick note on choosing your midnight. Modern life makes that flexible. Some people celebrate at local midnight because the body likes local time. Some celebrate earlier because of children or work schedules. Some celebrate with a distant friend's time zone to share the moment together. Some celebrate twice, once for a broadcast, once for their own clock. The point is not the exact minute. The point is giving attention to a boundary that matters to you. If you feel any guilt about not doing enough, let it soften here. A calm new year is not lesser. It can be deeper because you can actually feel it. And it can be healthier because your body is not overwhelmed. Now we gently connect this chapter back to everything else we learned. Calendars are agreements. Clocks are infrastructure. Time zones create the midnight wave. Countdowns create shared attention. Songs create soft landings. Food makes the boundary tangible. Rituals create agency. Resolutions create a story. Modern cozy traditions are simply the newest way humans do the same job. They turn time into meaning without needing intensity. Now we prepare for the wrap-up. Hold your chosen style in mind for a moment. Song, silence, screen, or crowd. You do not need to pick perfectly. Just notice what feels kind to you. We will use it in the ending to give one simple takeaway. For now, let this chapter settle like warm tea. A calm celebration is still a celebration. A gentle boundary is still a boundary. And a rested beginning can be the best kind of luck. One last tiny pause, and then we wrap everything into a calm ending you can fall asleep to. One gentle reset before we close. If you would like a companion video for the next night you cannot sleep, save this one to a playlist. That way it is there with one tap, whenever you need it. No pressure, just a small kindness for your future self. All right, let's close the open loops and end with a quiet, satisfying conclusion. If you want another calm, fact-filled companion, choose a next long video from this channel. Pick a theme that feels gentle tonight, like time, space, or nature, and let it play softly after this one. Good night.